Once upon a time, there was a boy who was never frightened. He didn't have enough sense to be scared. So one day, him and his sister were walking home, and they found a giant graveyard. His sister began to quiver and shake. She said, "Oh no, this place gives me the willies." Hans replied, "The willies? What are the willies?" She explained to him that when you got really, really scared, you began to quiver and shake. So Hans thought about it and he said, "You know what? I want the willies." So he started asking everyone in town if they could give him the willies. Of course, no one could do it. So one man suggested that he goes to the king. He said, "The king would for sure be able to give you the willies." Hans thought about it and he said, "Yeah, you're right. I'm going to go to the king." So when he arrived at the king's castle, he asked him if he could give him the willies. Of course, the king couldn't give it to him either. But he did suggest that he go to the haunted castle across the kingdom. So Hans thought about it and he said, "You know, if that'll give me the willies, I'm going to the haunted castle." When he got there, he opened the door and he saw two men playing cards. He thought it was a little strange, but whatever, as long as he got his willies. So one of the men was dressed in a long black coat, and the other man had a really furry face. The men said, "Welcome, welcome. We haven't had a visitor in years. Would you like to join us in our card game?" And Hans said, "Yeah, sure. I might as well play the card game while I wait for the willies to come." So the two men let him play cards, but they had a deal. He said if the man in the coat won, he would get to drink his blood. And if the furry-faced man won, he would get to rip him to shreds. But if Hans won, he got to live. So Hans was like, "That's a pretty good deal. I'll do it." So after an hour long of playing the card game, the man with the coat won. So he started running towards Hans and he said, "Here we go. I'm going to drink your blood." And Hans said, "No way you're going to drink my blood." And he got his two teeth and he snapped them right in half. The coat man started running down the hallway screaming and crying. The furry-faced man got so scared that he was going to hurt him too, so he ran away also. As he was sitting there waiting for the willies to come, he heard a big loud noise down the hallway. When he got up to look to see what it was a bunch of skeletons coming his way. He was like, "What is going on?" And then the music started to play and all the skeletons started to dance. So Hans wanted to dance too. So he went over to the skeletons and started dancing. The skeletons were all dancing with Hans until the music started going faster and faster and faster. Hans couldn't keep up. So when he was trying to stop, he pulled on the skeletons' arms and yanked them off their bodies. The skeletons cried and cried and cried. They all started bumping into each other until all their bones just fell on the floor. Hans thought, well, the dancing part was fun, but having all these bones all over the place, that's just weird. So he went over by the fireplace and started to sit. Sit and sit and sit. He was waiting and waiting and waiting for the willies to come. He didn't know when they were going to show up. He just wanted to get them. So finally he heard a big thud come out of the chimney. He saw two giant legs and two giant arms and a giant head fall from the chimney. He thought, "Hey, I know what's going on here. This is a puzzle and I have to put it together." So he put the legs on the body and put the arms on the body, and then he finally put on the head. And the giant leaped into the air and he said, "Yay, you finally did it. I haven't had a person complete this puzzle in forever. You have won the prize and you've broken the curse of the house." So Hans thought, "Wow, okay, sounds good to me. What do I get?" So the giant told him he got a treasure and it was buried in the backyard. So when the giant and Hans went to go dig for the treasure, they found pots of gold. So when they got the treasure back inside, the giant fell apart and went right back up the chimney. Hans thought, "Man, Some people just can't keep it together. He went back to his chair by the fireplace and curled up, and he thought, man, it's really cool to be rich, but when will I ever get the willies? So after that, he never got the willies at the haunted house. He broke the spell, and he stayed alive. And when the king heard the tale, he let Hans live in the castle. But when Hans grew up, he married the king's daughter, and within a year they had triplets. They had 3 boys. He named all 3 of them Willie, so he could finally say, now I have the willies. The end.